Today on Impact on the Nation, I sat with a guy that's changing the face and the landscape of how we see the saxophone. Wenzl has garnered over 2 million followers on TikTok. He's an author. Before the interview, he even convinced me to go do an ice bath, which was an amazing experience. We touch on meditation, and we both share that, and how that really affects our mindset for success. It's a very personal interview. He shares a lot of enlightening things on his journey and his spiritual awakening from being an atheist to transitioning into believing in something higher than himself. It's a great interview. I know you enjoy. Continue to make an impact. My man Wenzl. Man, you're reinventing the way people hear the saxophone.
Thank you.
I mean, you've broken through so many barriers just that we haven't seen before. Amassing over 2 million followers as a saxophonist on TikTok. Over 150 million views on YouTube. Where does it start for you?
You know, what came to mind was when I was living in Portugal and I just picked up the saxophone. And I was thinking literally the moment I picked up the saxophone, I could barely get a sound out of it. I was thinking, I don't want to be just another saxophonist. I was thinking like, I need to do something different. And so I started teaching myself playing it backwards, having my right hand on the top, left hand on the bottom. And I did that for a week, and that was just a severe disadvantage. Could barely play anything because you can't really reach all the keys.
Right, of course.
So I was like, maybe that's not the way I'm going to reinvent the saxophone. But I think that then, I went back to playing normal, saxophone. But I think that attitude just prevailed throughout my whole career of like trying to find these new ways to play the saxophone.
Wow. I mean, okay, so one of the things I've been so impressed with is, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which is a very big thing, obviously, in the world, in the United States, but it's the whole world. You have practiced something, and we did something today that completely changed and altered my whole being.
Yeah.
We did ice bath today.
Yeah.
And it was cold. We did ice bath and we did breath work. How did you get into that philosophy? What was the moment when you said, let's go back to the very early beginnings of young Wenzl being what happened, positive, negative, what got you to the point to where we are now?
It was in my early 20s. I was living in New York and I was very goal oriented, and I started noticing that once I would set up a goal, I'd reach it, I'd be as unhappy as I was before I started. I remember being on this TV show and I was hanging out with like Taylor Swift and Coldplay, and I was like the house band at this TV show, but it was pretty cool, but it wasn't like, it showed me what it would be like to be really famous. And it made me think like, maybe fame will never be the answer. And maybe what I'm looking for is something different. And then at first I got depressed because I felt like my whole trajectory as a saxophonist in New York, as a musician trying to make it, was kind of derailed. I was like, well, if this is not going to bring me happiness, then what is? And then I started getting a lot of anxiety and panic attacks because of that existential dilemma. And then to cope with that, a friend of mine suggested I should try meditation. And then I signed up for a Vipassana meditation retreat. And then you meditate for 10 hours a day for 10 days.
Was that in 2013?
Yeah.
That was like a breakthrough for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of shifted my whole perspective on life, on reality, on what's important. And I feel like since then I've been like drawing from that experience more and more and trying to get satisfaction, peace, and balance from there, and do all the career stuff as a game, but not as something to fulfill me.
Okay, that's really interesting. So you don't take it too serious. which has helped you. So 2013, you do this retreat. How long was the retreat for again?
It's 10 days,
Okay.
meditating 10 hours a day.
Wow. And that's quiet meditation?
Mm-hmm.
Are there
Yeah.
any yoga involved or just
No,
simply...
just sitting. First 3 days, you're focusing on your breath. Just kind of feel how it feels when you breathe in and out. And then a thought comes in. It's like, this is so stupid. What are you doing? You're wasting your time. Then you let the thought go and you go back to the breath. Then maybe another thought comes in. It's like, I'll never be good at this.
Right.
You know, all day long, you're just dealing with your own mental narrative.
So I've never experienced that. What I did have was I studied, which I'll put in the link in the description, Deepak Chopra,
Mm-hmm.
and what he calls pure potentiality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you reach your state of just being quiet for as little as 30 minutes a day
Yeah.
in the morning, 30 minutes a day at night, and you actually giving yourself to reach your full potential.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people actually reach their full potential when they're taking a shower. That's when
Mhm.
most people have their, right? That's most people have their clearest thoughts because they can slow down.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
You get a chance to just not, you can't be
Yeah.
on your phone.
Right.
You know, you can't, watch TV if unless you're like really rich and you have a
Yeah.
TV in your.
Right.
And so that whole journey led me to a level that when I met you, and for my audience that doesn't know, I'm a music producer, and these are some of the artists I've produced. My editor's gonna put it right here, right here, right here. Right
That one is
there.
one of my favorites.
That's your favorite right
That
there?
one right
That's
there.
one of my favorites too. And so the mindfulness of meditation really helped me to, one, face my fears
Mm-hmm.
of being afraid of doing something. Today, I was definitely, when we did the ice bath,
Yeah.
that I was a little afraid.
Yeah. It's.
I was a little afraid because I had started to feel after we did the breath work. So what I had experienced today is I've done breath work on my own, but the breath work that we did today, a lot of it was you should actually do it from what it felt like when I finished in the presence of like a professional.
Yeah.
It was like that intense.
Yeah. It was also that he was like firing us on and
Yeah.
drumming. So like I feel like if I do it alone, I don't go that intense.
Yeah.
You know, but like this was like
It was intense, and so it was continual breaths. So much so that when we finished the practice, one of the people that had the practice asked the instructor if he had turned the AC up because we felt cold.
Yeah.
Your body.
Yeah. I felt that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when we get into the ice bath, I experienced something. So coming from the inner city in Washington, D.C., in the 90s when it was the murder capital of the United
Mhm.
States, it was a very dangerous place to live.
Mhm.
I mentioned this to you, it was two other black men there, and we don't do what we did in the water. And what we did was we held hands. That's unheard of. And it was like, because you had to forge that bond.
You kind of had to hold on.
You had to hold on to each other. And it was amazing to me that two guys I had never met were able to share this connection. And not only that, I was ready to jump out.
Yeah.
It was like 40 degrees or something like that.
Yeah, it was close to freezing.
It was close to freezing.
Yeah.
And so when we did that and we held the hands, the guy told me to look at the sun. Not look at the sun, but to feel the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And to just focus my mind on that. And that was a game changer.
Whoa.
That was a complete game changer. So as you enter into being in New York, coming into this mindfulness after this retreat, it seems like that was a turning point in your career, in your journey.
Yeah.
You ended up becoming an author.
Yeah. Yeah. Music, I put it on the back burner for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, my band was successful and was supporting me, and management was taking care of all the bookings and all that. So really all I had to do was show up and play the show. So that was taken care of. So it allowed my mind to go into what is the nature of reality? Why are we here?
Okay.
What is personal growth? Why do we experience these mystical experiences if we go into meditation, into mindfulness? What is stress? What is fear? What is love? All these were questions that I was asking myself. And touring the world gave me the opportunity to meet amazing scientists all over the world.
Wow.
Because I'd be like, all right, I'll be in LA this week. I'm going to call up these people. I'll be in San Francisco. I'll call up these people. I'll be in New York. I'll call up these people. I'll be at Princeton. I'll talk to that person. So I did that for 6 years, just combining my touring schedule with interviewing scientists.
Wow. Wow. And then you ended up going to do a whole like hour presentation in like 2015 where you talked about this. That's very deep to go in and be able to talk about something. So did that happen in that 2-year span from 2013 from the meditation retreat to being able to have that level of intensity to do a whole talk? What was the turning point for you when you left that retreat, and how did you even get to be able to get that level of consciousness and to talk with that fear? Because to talk for a whole hour, most people are afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, so I faced such existential things during this time that it kind of alleviated like anything like in this reality, where it's like the things that could happen to me in this life, failure, not being approved by others, they seemed very insignificant opposed to like the existential depth of almost fighting for my soul, so to speak, because like in meditation I encountered that kind of struggle where it was like the momentum of craving fame, craving approval, using my power, my energy to get what I want versus dedicating it to a higher power, surrendering to the universe, surrendering to love, righting my wrongs, looking at everything I did honestly, looking at who I am honestly. I think those two options kind of were very clear to me in the meditation retreat.
Wow.
And
it's almost like doing shrooms, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, it felt like psychedelic. Yeah, it was like I went off. Like I came there as an atheist, believing there's nothing in the universe intelligent other than us.
Interesting.
And I came out of there being like, I'm not so sure about that anymore. Because suddenly I felt like I was interfacing with a very intelligent force that was completely beyond this reality. And I didn't have a name for that force. I didn't have a mindset. I didn't have a religion. I didn't have any framework. So it was almost destabilizing, disorienting. Because I kind of had to make up my mind from scratch.
Wow. You were reborn.
Yeah, I felt like I was reborn.
Yeah, you
I felt
were reborn.
like I was suddenly same body, same career. People knew me as the person they knew me, but my mind was not the same. My heart wasn't the same. What was important to me was not the same that it was 2 weeks ago.
How many of us would that be amazing for that to happen? You mentioned the soul. So there's a guy who really did a lot of stuff with Oprah Winfrey. His name was Gary Zukav. And he had an analogy about the soul where he said the soul is like a mothership and we're all just little boats following that ship. Whoa. And some people, if we just follow the ship, we're going to be okay. But some people decide to deviate. And that's where we get the Pablo Escobars, the Osama bin Ladens of the world, where they always say whatever you believe in spiritually. I believe the energy that you feel with somebody when they're gone tells you the whole story. Like when I mention Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, you feel something of a positive nature of what they contributed. But if I mention somebody like Osama bin Laden or Pablo Escobar, is the essence that's like kind of there. And so when you did that retreat, and like the soul being like the mothership, us being little boats, which I just really, really just thought that analogy was so amazing.
Yeah.
Because, we have, the whole thing about life is we can't control the outcome, but the one thing we can control is our intention. You know what I'm saying? it's our intention that is everything, and that's why you see great people who become successful. They learned how to control their intention.
Yeah.
So
And be aware of their
and
intention.
be aware of their intention.
Yeah.
And that's why when you said you was able to right your wrongs,
Mm-hmm.
you knew that there was something bigger and greater than you,
Mm-hmm.
which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. I'm honestly, I don't wish that this kind of intensity. Don't wish that kind of experience on anybody. But the fruits from it were amazing. I actually am now under the impression that a gradual growth path is a lot more beneficial than being shocked awake. And
Okay.
I think that basically, this is my analogy. Like, the soul is trying to wake us up. Meaning the soul is trying to be like, look, this is real.
Yeah.
Like, dedicating yourself to love, to growth, to beauty, to service. All those things are real. And if we turn our back on it, deviate from the mothership,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, we're going to head straight in a storm. And there's
Right.
no one going to be there to help us.
That's
And
true.
then we get woken up forcefully.
Yeah.
And we're like, that is a very intense experience.
Mhm.
It's like, I think much more beneficial to just deviate a little bit and be like, yeah, I don't need to go that far, and like turn back.
Right.
You know.
But you're a go far person,
Yeah.
so you can't change it about yourself.
No, I'm not.
I mean, you literally take a saxophone and you run up on random people and you scare the shit out. So it's also, for me, that's a unique trait about yourself. You're like an all-in type of person.
Yeah, I am.
And some of that is like everybody's journey is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
So the first moment that you have, well, let's even go back. I have to say, you had one of the most unbelievable tiny desks. Just the most weirdest New York City subway. They just literally just moved all the people out of the subway. There's no stops happening to 34th Street going to 42nd Street. Tiny desks I've ever seen in my life. How do we get to, was this intentional for you to amass the fan base you've amassed? Your first video, or at least the very last video you have on your YouTube, is Tamara, which feels very yoga centered, very almost like I want to hear you make an album like that.
I actually have one.
Really?
Yeah, it's called The End of Fear. It's just not very popular, but it's up there. It's on my Spotify.
Amazing.
And my Bandcamp. It's 2.5 hours long, the album. And it's like all like circular breathing, multi-layers, super meditative saxophone. And yeah, I mean that's the kind of music I was very passionate about when I was writing my books and doing my research. And mostly I created that music because while I was writing, I wanted to listen to music. And I couldn't find any music that wasn't like distracting or like, so I was like, I kind of had a very specific idea of what kind of music I want to be listening to while I write. So I just created that album for myself to write to.
Are you ready to transform your life? Introducing Balance, the app that's revolutionizing the way over 50 million people communicate, solve problems, and enhance their memory. Balance isn't just an app. It's your daily companion for meditation and breath work. Feel the stress melt away, elevate your mood, and so much more. Look, Balance has made a huge difference in my life. It's a part of my daily routine. Dream big and achieve more. When you take care of your mind, the rest will follow. Download Balance today. The link is in the description. Your journey to a better you starts now. Okay, so how do you go from that to this cone?
It's a really good question, honestly. If you compare these two sides of me, you feel like, how can that be the same person, right? It's like really calming, relaxing people, and then like shocking, startling people. Well, I mean, I feel like with this Traffic Cone Sax Man project, I am honoring a prankster element of me that I always had.
Okay.
And I mean, even as a child.
I like that when you said you're honoring.
Yeah.
I really love that. How many people don't honor themselves for what they really want to do?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people have very conflicting parts in them.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I suppressed that part of me and said it's bad. You know, I don't want to be that person anymore. And so on. And I think actually in the beginning of a spiritual journey, that's very common.
Okay.
That people suppress parts of them. Because let's say you live your whole life completely driven by egotistical desires and self-serving desires, like I did before I started meditating. And then I come back and I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm like pushing all that into the basement and closing the lid on the basement.
Yeah.
And I think that's important in the beginning of a journey to be like, this is the direction I'm now going.
Yeah.
And I felt like then for a long time, I had to integrate. Meaning going back to old parts of me, forgiving myself for the shit I've done, forgiving myself of how I've showed up in the world. And I think when we do that, when we forgive aspects of ourselves and accept them and love them for who they are, they start to become part of us again.
Beautiful things start to happen.
Yeah, in a new way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a person that does a lot of fucked up shit is a person who doesn't love themselves. It's a person that has pushed shit away and and then it bursts out, you know?
Right.
And so I feel like for me, it's all about inclusiveness of my being. I actually really got into a book recently called Existential Kink. It's like fascinating. It's been making me laugh so hard.
Really?
It's such a good book. It's very different than like most meditative books or personal growth journey manuals. This is basically, the book says like all the parts that we shun about ourselves, to celebrate them, and also to have a container for them. So basically, if we're in a cyclical situation, like a lot of people go through cycles, like they get fired from jobs in the same way over and over again. They get in the same kind of relationships over and over again. And so when she says, when this happens, clearly one part of you wants to relive this experience. Another part of you hates it. So you have this duality in there, right? And that's what creates the cycle. And then you're shunning and shaming the part of you that wants to relive this.
That's where the doubts and the negative talk to yourself.
Yeah, and shame and all that. So she says, how about you relive this experience one more time, but this time celebrate it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so like while you're going through this shitty situation that you've gone through many times, be like, fuck yeah. You know, I've chosen this, I've created this shit, I've created this fucked up situation. Let's try to at least enjoy it, because obviously a part of me must be enjoying it if I keep creating it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come from, to go back to the early days, because what I really want my viewers to take is that success is possible for everybody by the power of your thought and your thinking. You come from a family of siblings of 10.
Yeah.
Wow. Where do you fall into that 10?
I'm the 7th son, and I had two more sisters. So
I'm the 7th. I'm the youngest of 7.
All right.
So that's amazing. So 7, that's a good number.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a song also called 7th Son?
I don't know. We should write one.
I feel like there is one, actually. There's a song called 7th Son. Yeah, so... Yeah, I had a very complex family spread across the whole planet.
Wow.
Because my dad was kind of a wild man who
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yeah, he was like a revolutionary artist in the 70s
Wow.
in Vienna, and he would do extreme performance art.
So is that where you're originally from? Because you claim New York. But where are you?
Well,
where were you born?
I was born in Spain, the Canarian Islands. But I left when I was 1 year old because I didn't see many career opportunities there.
You left at 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
That's the atheist side of you talking about.
I'm joking. Sometimes I tell this joke and people don't get it.
I got it right away.
Yeah.
That's why you needed that retreat in 2013. You needed a breakthrough, my boy. That's great.
No, but yeah. So my family moved then to Austria, then Germany, then Portugal, and then when I was 18, I wanted to study music in New York.
So you really became who you are in New York. That's really...
Yeah, it was the most influential time of... I came there as an 18-year-old and then stayed in New York for 10 years until I was like 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to do what you've done, with this being Mental Health Awareness Month, which is critical for me because July of this year will be 13 years since I had a panic attack. And I never, at that time in my journey, I could never predicted the things that were going to happen for me because I couldn't get past that. And so for you to come through and have such a breakthrough year, you tell me the moment, what happened when you uploaded the video on TikTok and it just...
Mm-hmm. So it was actually my mom's birthday. And that day I was on a date with my girlfriend. My mom lives in California, Northern California. I was in Providence with my girlfriend, Providence, Rhode Island. And we were on a date and we kind of were like seeing each other, talking to each other for like a month, but like wasn't like really clear what we are.
Okay.
So I kind of asked her like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend?
Did you like ask her like that?
Did you know what?
Did you write a little paper? Do you want to be my girlfriend? Yes, no,
actually,
maybe.
No, you know, the way I said it, I was a little sneaky. I was like, I said, would you want me to be your boyfriend?
That's how you asked or you wrote it?
Huh?
Did you ask?
No, I asked her in person. I was like, would you want me to be your boyfriend? And she...
Was somebody holding a gun to your head?
No, no.
Okay, because normally women put the pressure on.
I know, but I don't know why.
She's just special?
Well, she's very special, actually. The first date I had with her, I met her in a sweat lodge at a music festival. And then I got her number there after the sweat lodge. Not in the sweat lodge, obviously. But anyway, afterwards, I was like so sure that I'm going to be dating her. Wow. That I arranged a date with her the next day. And I got her flowers. Huh. And I was like, I've never brought a girl flowers to the first date.
Wow.
You know, I was like, that's like embarrassing.
All the women are loving this right now.
I mean, I've just never done it because I felt like that's like
so
putting your heart out on a sleeve. You know, it's like...
Which comes from the 1700s, 1400s, because guys used to write their names, the woman's name they loved, on their sleeve.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I brought her flowers the first date, and I always knew like she was... And after that date, we went both home texting each other, and I always texted her as like, yo, I really didn't think you existed. Wow. Because like, to me, she was kind of the girl I've been fantasizing about months before I met her. I remember in May that year, I was talking to my cousin about women, and he was dating this really fiery Latina, and her fire then burned the relationship. Like he couldn't contain her fire. Yeah. And I said to him, like, I wonder if it's possible to meet a fiery Latina and her fire doesn't burn you. And
interesting.
So I asked that, and then I told my cousin, like, you know what? I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try to find a fiery Latina that is really balanced. And he's like, well, you know, you might be the exception to the rule, you know. And so, sure enough, 4 months later, I met my girlfriend, and she's super fiery, super passionate, but really mature emotionally.
Wow.
Like, so, like, if she has a problem with me in the relationship, she doesn't just explode on me.
Huh.
But what she does is, like, she's like, first she warns me. She's like, hey, would you be able right now to have a kind of a deep talk?
Huh.
And I didn't have the option to be like yes or no,
Yeah.
It's like if I'm driving somewhere or whatever, like I've had girlfriends that just dump crazy intense stuff on me
Right.
when I'm like driving through rush hour in New York.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like then it's like, how are you supposed to process all this?
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, she makes sure I'm ready before she wants to talk to me about something that's deep.
That's mature.
Yeah, exactly.
That's mature.
And so then she usually she says basically, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it made me feel. And this is kind of what I would wish how you would respond. Versus like, fuck you, you did this, you asshole, none of that.
That's good.
And so we kind of like never raised our voices at each other.
But see, that's a direct reflection of you because you attracted that energy.
Yeah.
I met my wife in an Uber pool.
Okay.
Really? Yes. I was leaving a Grammy party, right? So Empire. So Grammy season, there's a Grammy party.
Mm-hmm.
My friend, who's actually coming on the show, his name is Killer B. He's a really good friend of mine. He actually just did the record Texas Hold'em for Beyonce.
Oh, wow.
So he's coming on the show in the next couple of episodes. He produced the song. Oh, wow. He's coming on the show in the next couple of days to just talk about his journey of how he went from being homeless to having the biggest record of Beyonce. So he'll be.
That is so wild. I want to see that episode.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. He invited me to a Grammy party, and we weren't on the guest list. And he was like, "Yo, we just get in everywhere we go." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna stay at home." He was like, "No, come out tonight. Come out, come hang with me." So I said, "Okay." So I said, look, because they had an open bar there, I said, I'm going to get an Uber. I'm going to swing through and have the Uber grab you, and then we'll go to the party.
Yeah.
We go to the party. We're having a good time. We're meeting people. We're connecting. And then at the time where I lived, where my studio was like 10 or 15 minutes apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so Uber X could be like $30. This is years ago. It could be like $30. But then the Uber pool could be like $6.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, fuck it. I'll just take an Uber pool and just whatever.
Yeah, save some gas, save some money,
No parking. It was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
My offices were in Hollywood. So it was parking, tickets, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm leaving the party's dark. I'm actually going to order an Uber truck, the Uber Black.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought was pulling up. And I ordered an Uber pool because it was in my recent.
Oh.
So I did it by accident. So I walk outside.
Oh, you didn't even intend to do that?
I didn't even intend to do it.
No way.
Yeah.
That is
the
so
best
crazy.
Mistake of my life. And I'm like looking in the car, and he's like, "Jolly, yeah, And so I go, and I get in, and I'm looking at her. She's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, I look at the thing, I'm like, I ordered an Uber pool, and we start talking. Didn't see each other for a month.
How long was the ride?
The ride was like 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
About 10 to 15
you
minutes.
Like formed a meaningful connection right then.
The first thing that I would say during this time to women is I would ask them, what are you passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
That was always my opening. Like, whatever, what are you passionate? We started talking, and I was like, wow, she's very interesting. And then I got her number. And
what did she say she was passionate about?
She said, you know what she said she was passionate about? She said, she was passionate about just spreading like good energy and just being positive, which is really who she is.
Yeah.
The more I've gotten to we're married now.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like, she wasn't like, I would say, driven by certain kind of like materialistic success things.
Wow.
As I've been on my journey, which I've had to kind of learn to deal with that of wanting so much sometimes and not stopping to be grateful for what
you have.
Yeah. And when she said that, I was like, So then I went back to DC where I'm from, and I had 7 dates in like 6 days.
7 dates?
Like 7 different dates.
Wow.
And all of them were terrible.
How did you set those up?
Well, I'm from DC, and so when I would go there, I would just be at certain events.
Yeah,
and
you know them already.
I would get people's numbers, and I'll be back in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went back, it was just playing catch up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I come back to LA, and then we do we do a date a month later, and
Were you like texting the whole time?
we were texting off and on. But
Yeah.
I had formulated this question that I started to ask women when I realized I was looking for something more serious.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to ask the question that could be somewhat controversial, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the truth. Do you plan on paying a major bill when you're 60 and 70 years old? Because the bills you're paying today are going to cost the rent and what you pay now is going to be exponentially higher in 2050 and 2060 and 2070 than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan on paying a major bill? The answer was hell no for baby girl. So then my next question to follow up was, well, if I told you I could provide for you, you wouldn't have to pay for that. Would you drop everything to support me in my endeavors?
Really?
Yeah.
What? Wow.
Yes. Yes. And usually it was like, no, kind of. They wouldn't say it like that, but it'd just be like, okay, if you don't want to pay a bill, are you at least willing to be able to help me get my dream off if you want me to handle everything,
Yeah.
which I love to do. It is just in me as a Leo to do that, to provide that.
Yeah.
But it's also, we live in a generation where the help is like, oh, the men have to handle everything. And it's like, that's a whole other show. So I asked my wife that. Actually, I didn't ask her that. We went on the first date, and we went to a bar called The Well in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
We had drinks, and then we went to another spot right on Sunset. And I ran to the bathroom, and I came back, and she had taken care of the check. And I had asked for the check, and the waiter said, oh, she took care of it. And I was like, this is a first date.
Whoa.
I was like, whoa, boy. After that, we've been together every day since. And
So you didn't even ask her that question?
her actions told me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask. Just like when you went on your retreat,
Yeah.
you went there as an atheist,
Mm-hmm.
right? You felt a change that you didn't even have to question.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that time, because that time is like really, really interesting to me, because so many people that are going to look at this discussion are where you were
Mm-hmm.
in 2013.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the guy that's had the success, that's had the breakthrough, that's gained the traction. So I want to go back to where you were at that time to provide some insight and guidance to how we can help people move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you before you even went there, what even made you be, as you would say, an atheist?
One thing, it's made me a little emotional, just the way you put that. Made me just kind of like, I guess I've never really stopped to like reflect on where I'm at right now. Like, it's kind of crazy, honestly, because I could have gone so many routes. And I feel like without guidance from above, beyond, I would not be here.
Wow.
I really would not be here.
Wow.
Like, I never know much further than the next couple of steps. I feel like I feel like I'm walking through fog, and I'm just kind of feeling guidance, and I'm just following that. And that's just something I could never have done when I was an atheist. Because really, our little brains are so small compared to the complexity of the universe, the complexity of life, the complexity of the options. This is like a chess game on crack. Like, every moment it could go in infinite options. So I feel like trying to figure it out with our little brains is not going to work out. And that's, I think, what led me to my success, was to actually just trust in guidance. And even if I have no idea where it's going, like, even if this is going to put me in a situation where it feels like my entire life is collapsing, my relationships are collapsing, my friendships are collapsing, if I have that guidance and I feel that connection, That's all that matters. And that is a huge shift that happened in 2013, because before that, I tried to calculate my life. I tried to plan it out in terms of, I mean, I'm not saying like don't make schedules and stuff like that, but I'm just saying like following your heart rather than your brain. I mean, this sounds so cliche, like follow your heart. Everyone says that, but I think if you really take it seriously and unpack it, it's pretty deep.
But you've also given yourself tools that I think is really important to take away from that. Is that you've given yourself tools by practicing breath work, which we've actually done, which really was like,
yeah, you're right. Tools are.
You've given yourself tools, and for me to go the amount of years I've gone without anxiety, I had to give myself tools.
Tools are everything, honestly.
The tools, everything. You know, being open to breath work, to getting in situations where, you know, after doing the breath work with you, I had to conquer. I didn't even know it was a fear of getting into the ice bath water. Like, that wasn't even. But just to see that you were open, because that's how I am. When I started my yoga journey, I didn't know about chakras and the alignment of my chakra. My dad died of a heart attack at 48. So my whole goal has been, I just want to make it past 48. And just understanding the heart chakra, stress, how all these things play, how meditation plays a part. So in giving yourself these tools, what's the one thing for Wenzl that you just can't live without with the tools? For me, it would be meditation. For you, what would that one thing be? You just can't live without it.
Also meditation. I mean, like any problem I have, I don't try to solve it before I meditate.
Okay.
Because like, how can I solve a problem if my mind is chaos?
Yeah.
And I feel like meditation is the tool for me that brings me in alignment with my higher purpose.
So it's amazing you say that, because it's your management and we got close because we were doing a situation with Universal, and it was very stressful. And I read 50 Cent's book, which I tell everybody they should read. This amazing, amazing book. And in 50 Cent's book, one thing that he says is, before you make any major decision, if you can, go away for a few days. Everybody can't afford to do that, but I was able to do that. And I made all of the right decisions because my mind was clear, which is what you achieve in meditation.
Yeah.
So on a basic level, from somebody that's coming in, I know there's tons of things on YouTube with people that are gurus at this. So I'm not professing to be that at all. But what I am saying is, who sits before me is somebody that has had a really, really major, significant contribution, whether you see that as not, because you've changed how people in 15, 20 years, there's going to be people that are going to be doing what you're doing with the cone, with your saxophone. So you've made a contribution. What would you say for somebody that has never meditated before? What would be a good way to start?
I think accepting that meditation is extremely simple. The hard thing about it is to be consistent. And I feel like also whenever we create a new habit, it's like planting a little seed. We don't want to overwater that seed. We don't want to put that seed in like really hot sunlight. So meaning that start small. Like I feel like a lot of the time, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to meditate an hour a day, that's intimidating. It's like no one's going to do that. But 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, people can do that.
There's an app that I use that I'll make sure that we link in the description that really changed my life. It's an app called Balance. And in the Balance app, you can meditate by having coffee. What they do is they have it, so it's different meditations while you walk, And while you sit with the coffee, they have you take the coffee when you drink it in the morning, and when you sip it, you just literally just hold it in your mouth for like 30 to 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And you just tell yourself, what's the aroma? What's the flavor? How is this made? Where do I think this was made?
Yeah.
And you're asking yourself these questions, and it gives you a level of appreciation
Mm-hmm.
for the things you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think before I meditated, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people like this, I made a way bigger deal than it really was. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's so true. A lot of people are like, think it's like this complex thing they need to do right, and there's all these ways they could do it wrong, and all these ways they could fail in it.
Yeah.
But all that is missing the point.
Yes.
I think, like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, for one moment, you're actually here.
Yeah. You're present.
Yeah. You're
present.
not thinking about what could have done, what he said and she said, and what I could have done wrong, and this might be happening, and all this noise that just floats around.
Even your mind wandering off and just being like, oh, that's okay. I'm going to come back to center.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah, and I think some things people do is if their mind wanders, they're like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this.
Yeah.
Or like, oh my God, I can never do this right.
Yeah.
But no, everyone's mind wanders.
But
all the time. That's what the mind does.
But it goes back to childhood. For a lot of, I'm reading a book right now called Know Your Enemies by Patrick Bet-David.
Mm-hmm.
And the book really goes into reviewing yourself, which is something a lot of times we as entrepreneurs, as being self-employed, business owners, those are things that we don't do. And with yoga, with meditation, you don't have to be perfect. Like you just said, you just want to be consistent. And 5 minutes a day. And then that turns into 10. And then that turns into a whole plethora of things.
Yeah.
So we go through this journey of you really learning about yourself. And then we have a breakthrough record with Anissa Disco Cone.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That's actually a funny story. I was touring in Europe. And I was playing a show in Marseille in France. And I had about 2 hours to kill before the show, between soundcheck and the show. So what I did is I put on my GoPro, I put the cone in my saxophone, and I had the buyout in my pocket. Like, it was like 20 euros, whatever, that the club paid us for food. And I was just walking around playing, like, usually when I like shoot content, I also come up with songs.
Okay.
Like, I have a drum groove going on in my earbud.
Okay.
And I'm just like kind of playing around, like, oh, this could be a cool riff or whatever. And then like I'm about to go in the subway station, and this homeless guy asks me for money. I also have my saxophone, the GoPro, and everything. And I give him the money, and he's like so excited that I gave him 20 euros. That he just like starts kind of partying almost. Like he cheers me on, and we're playing a little bit.
Wow.
And in that moment, I came up with the riff from Disco Cone. And
wow.
So then I like kind of perfected, and I made a video of me going down the escalator. In the original video of Disco Cone that got 40 million views, you can see him on top of the escalator looking for a second. And he didn't follow me, but anyway, I kept playing the riff, and I went down. And I didn't think much about it. But that night, like I don't smoke often weed. I barely smoke weed. But that night, the club owner gave me a little nug.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, hey, why not? Sparked it up in the bathroom, smoked into the vent, blew the smoke into the vent. Didn't want to go outside. Was too lazy. Anyway, and then I was like, oh, I want to watch the footage. I got all inspired. It was like 2 a.m. Usually I just pass out, after the show. But I got really inspired because I got high. And so I went through the footage, and I edited it, and I made a little beat on Ableton, and I uploaded it. Suddenly, it started having 1 million views a day, 2 million views a day, 3 million views a day. And I was like, oh my God, this is taking off. Like, so I set up a pre-save link. I collected 15,000 pre-saves for people that wanted that song. And then a bunch of producers started hitting me up from all over the world that wanted to release a song with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed this track to Anissa, and she really wanted to make a track out of it as well. There was a moment where I had to like kind of decide who to go with, but I ended up working with Anissa on it.
Sounds like you made the right decision.
Yeah, and now this track is still going hard.
Yeah.
It's been having almost 200,000 plays a day.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so like I'm now suddenly at 1 million monthly listeners. And
well, is it suddenly?
Because it was like in 2 months.
Okay, but from your journey,
right?
See, this is the thing that I really emphasize is that who really truly wants to work a 9 to 5? Sometimes people have to because given where they are and taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
But this serves as inspiration. That was suddenly, but that was 10 years since you had your breakthrough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I mean,
Steve Jobs says the journey is the reward. And so there's so many positive steps. If there's somebody right now where you now have 1 million listeners on Spotify, there's been a journey. And there's an ancient proverb that says, a little by little becomes a lot.
Yeah.
You've made a lot of little steps, little steps,
mm-hmm.
little steps, little steps, little steps. And then, bam, all the dots connect.
Mm-hmm.
And this just isn't unique to yourself. You were on your journey, trusting your heart
mm-hmm.
and following those steps. And so now the song comes out, and now it has 1 million streams. Now you have damn near all the labels after you. What's next for you in your journey with your saxophone?
That's a good question. Can I first talk about what you said about the little steps?
Please.
I think that's so true, and sometimes we tend to think too much about the outcome of each step.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's maybe more important is the principle and the intention behind each step.
Yep.
And then when the breakthrough comes, it's usually not when you expect it.
Right.
It just hits you over the head out of nowhere.
Right.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
that
the
one.
Did it? You know, it's like, okay. You know, so it's like, it's not, it goes back to what we talked about. It doesn't come from the head.
Yeah.
It's not something you planned out because you're like master chess player of this world.
Yeah.
It's something because you followed the steps that your heart wanted to take.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes just having integrity with your heart will lead you totally astray for a long time, just for you to learn these crucial lessons.
Following your heart sometimes will break your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes following your heart will break your heart.
It will break your heart.
Giving to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Being taken advantage
Exactly.
of. Not being appreciated.
Exactly. All of that.
I mean, all of it, you just be feeling like you're just doing the wrong thing.
Exactly. And then you're like, damn, I should have just followed my head.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you follow your head, you lose your will. Because it doesn't come from your will. It comes from what you should do. And if you then live your life based on what you should do, maybe in the outside your life is going to look perfect. You're going to be rich, famous, but you're going to be miserable. And you might actually not want to live that life. That's why a lot of famous people, you know,
commit suicide and
have mental health issues.
Yeah, yes.
So I feel like, I think a big step for me was in 2020. I was married, but I was stuck on my ex-girlfriend. And I could not stop thinking about her. And she was crazy. I mean, beautiful, amazing, beautiful soul, but she went through so much pain that she would literally like destroy my things and then buy me new things on Amazon just to destroy them again.
Okay, so I'm a little jealous. I've had girls destroy my shit
and
not
buy
give me
No, she's a beautiful, pure soul. But
a few years ago, a game changer in the entertainment industry walked into my studio in Hollywood, California. Session Wire was introduced to me and the brilliant minds behind it. Before it even launched, I saw its potential and completely got behind it. Today, SessionWire is becoming the industry standard in audio collaboration. From video calls, file sharing, and live sessions has never been easier. You've never seen anything like this before. This is the software you need today. Click the link in the description and connect SessionWire, redefining how we use remote collaboration.
But anyway, I went on this side quest about going back to my ex-girlfriend and all that because I feel like it taught me such a valuable lesson to do what I want, learn the lessons, follow my face, and then do it until I don't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because then my will stays genuine. You know, maybe it will bring me to side quests, but at least I'm one with myself.
Yeah. But you really did the work.
What do you mean?
You really did the work of understanding. I remember the first time many years ago I was dating a girl and I just thought she was so beautiful and she was so fine. And she invited me to yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whatever. And I went. And it was hot yoga.
Oh, God.
And then I did it. And what I didn't tell you was that yoga changed my life so much because, now it's funny, I ended up making me emotional. Being around musicians, you know, we're emotional people. When I met my wife, I was so broken from relationships.
Yeah.
That I couldn't fathom having kids, let alone trusting.
Yeah.
Marrying somebody.
I know what you mean.
Very broken.
Yeah.
So much so that first time my wife and I hung out, I actually did breath work with her.
Really?
Yes. Like just to breathe and just because it's just like I could tell I really liked it, but it was just like, yo, this is I'm not gonna give myself. It was so much more fun, just as they say, being a player.
Yeah.
It was way fun. I could whatever.
You don't get hurt.
Oh, you don't get hurt. You know,
it's
you
all
just
like,
it's all good.
Yeah.
And so by practicing yoga, when certain things happened in my life where I started my company with just myself and then moving to like a team, I don't really call my team staff, like of 10.
Yeah.
And being able to do verticals and other business sectors and things like that, it wasn't for a while that I was able to go back and retrace those moments of the first time I did hot yoga and then I started practicing yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you look at yourself and it's like, I woke up and it's doing 1 million streams. But there's a lot of people out here that are looking at this that are also going to go on to do great things because they start to apply. You were an extreme. You were an extreme case because you didn't believe in anything. And then you went on the retreat in 2013.
Right.
And so that decade, you will be learning and shaping and crafting the person you wanted to be. And so in doing that and getting to that point, you did the work.
Right.
And that's what I mean when I say
right.
In doing the work.
Yeah. To me, the work means being honest with yourself and God. If you call it God or the universe, whatever you want to call that higher power, being honest with it. Not hiding things from it and not hiding things from yourself. And like that it's humbling because like we're all so imperfect. You know, we all have these little quirks and things that are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think some people are so afraid of being like, this is also me. This is also me.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I'm this cool person, you know, look at me, blah, blah, blah. I'm just putting all this front because all this other stuff, they're just so afraid of showing it.
Right.
And I feel like when you learn to, I was talking to AP about failure the other day.
Yes.
And he was saying, you know, he has no fear of failure.
Right.
And I feel like that's what makes him the person that he is, or it's a part of it. It's like once you lose that fear, you are open to creative potential.
So you and
You're
AP
open.
have a lot in common
Oh yeah.
because both of you guys, AP is really instrumental into my life as well. Of just I've known him for a decade when I first moved to LA, and you guys very similar. You guys have to really raise yourselves from like a father with 10 kids. It's a lot of things you have to just kind of just learn, which you find in a lot of successful people is that there's early trauma. And most successful people you kind of find is usually not the rose-petaled roses, the gold sidewalk, and you're walking. No, it's usually you have to
struggle.
You have to struggle.
Yeah,
you have to struggle. You look at one thing I say about LeBron James, who I love, but one thing I say about there is a major difference between LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant both had strong male figures. Kobe Bryant's dad actually played professionally in the NBA.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So a lot of LeBron James' early career was actually Michael Jordan's dad would pin him and his brothers against each other, and that's where Michael Jordan's fuel for success came from. LeBron James' mom, I think, was 16 to 18, something like that, when she had him. And so you see his first 10 years in the league, he was missing. What was missing from his game wasn't talent. He never had a masculine role figure in his life. And so seeing his journey, and now you're seeing him playing, at this point, the best basketball we've ever seen from somebody that's done it for 21 years. Seeing that as of today, he had to do the work with himself as well. So the work can be done. No matter your beginning doesn't dictate your end.
Exactly. Do you know what's his name? David. What's his name? David Goggins. You know what that is?
No.
So he was like an obese, overweight exterminator in the army. And he had this moment, he was 300 pounds. He had this moment where this is not me, this is not my life. I'm going to become a Navy SEAL. And he tried to run 1 mile and he almost fainted. He was so out of shape. But he literally trained his ass off. Became a Navy SEAL. And then started breaking a bunch of world records of ultra marathons, the most pull-ups in 24 hours. And now he's a fucking in-shape motherfucker with such an intense military discipline about his work.
Wow.
And turning fucked up situations around.
Wow.
He's a huge inspiration. I think about him a lot, actually. Whenever I do something that I know is good for me and it gets painful, I channel that David Goggins. And I'm
see that right there? You're pulling from a positive inspiration, a positive force, right?
Yeah.
You said when you had Disco Cone, which is your most successful song to date, but I actually know the team that you have around you now, and so I expect a lot of more great shit to come from you. Just even some of the things that even we've done since you've been in LA, and some of the things I've been hearing you do. Yeah, you're about to have a very serious run, that I think is very needed in the new age of AI, which I use a lot of. But I heard will.i.am say something that he said we should invest more into, and I agree with him. And he said HI, and that's human intelligence. I really like that a lot. I really like that. Hi.
Imagine there's a telephone line, HI calling. You call up.
HI.
Hi, I'm Alfred. How can I assist you? It's wait, is this a robot? No, I'm just
really
just me.
This is really me.
It's HI.
HI is here. Hi, I'm here. So I think that we're moving into an age of consciousness, which is something where you really into.
At times, yes, but also there's a lot of struggle, learning. Well, I feel like now the team I'm part of, we're all pulling and pushing in the same direction.
I'm part of your team now.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you get it.
Yes.
You know, you know what it is, and
Yep.
like that's the kind of people I want to be around and let the magic unfold. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what's gonna be next,
Of course.
but I have a feeling it's gonna be big.
The feeling I
And-
get from you is you understand your intention, and like we mentioned, Gary Zukov in the mothership, you've really redirected and you're following, because when we leave here, our souls, our bodies are going to be gone,
Mhm.
but our souls are going to be here, and it's going to live on,
Mhm.
and it's going to live on. Some people leave an imprint that fuels you for success. Some people leave an imprint, like how you mentioned, you channel the guy
David Goggins.
Yes, David Goggins, as an inspirational channel to push forward. I mean, what you've done, you're gonna leave the inspiration for the next. We're gonna see freaking traffic cones. It's crazy, man.
Dude, there's already tons of middle school kids sending me selfies with their saxophones and their traffic cones.
How amazing is that?
Yeah,
That's a beautiful thing. I'm excited for your journey. I'm excited for where you're going, and I'm looking forward to us doing this again. And at some point, I really hope when I'm in Bali that you come and we actually walk people through the certain steps. So when I changed my consciousness, I hung out with other people who changed their consciousness. And I think you're going to be that for a lot of people.
Thank you. Likewise. I mean,
Thank
this
you.
podcast you're doing is exactly that. You know,
Thank
it's
you.
like, it's beautiful. I've never been on a platform like this, so thank you.
Man, well, I'm excited.
thanks for
Thank
having
you. Wenzl, thank you, my man.